Hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Lads, It's Tottenham, and my name is John. And here tonight, we are here to discuss a very, very strange night in Istanbul last night for Tottenham Hotspur, but also look forward to the game on Sunday against Ipswich Town at the at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, also known as White Hart Lane, on which is going to be my birthday game, my traditional birthday weekend. I'm 48 on Tuesday, so I'll be going to the game, meeting up with a few of the guys. Might have a couple of beverages, but let's get on with the show. And we're a bit international tonight. No Aussies, I'm afraid. But joining me miles and miles away, bottom right of your screen, is about 5 miles that direction. James, my son, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Pretty nice day. Slept in. Just had dinner. Chilled out. Went for a walk. That was all right. Yeah, chilled out.
Could you be more of a student?
I think I'd be more if I was in Spoons at midday. That would make me more. But yeah,
there is that.
Nice to be here.
And now almost a semi-regular, joining us from Abu Dhabi, and it's 1 a.m. Geraint.
Yep, and it's only a 7-hour flight to London, so not so bad. I think Jack's gonna have more of a distance to travel than I will. But it's good to be here again. So thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, great to have you back on. And joining us again. Been at ages, it seems to have been. I haven't seen you for a long time. Anyway, Jack, all the way, not from New York, but from Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle.
Jack from the Irish Hotspur.
Yeah, I've traveled across all of the Yankland to the other coast this time. Happy upcoming birthday, John. Hopefully you can have some beverages and take some break from the very speedy runs that you've been doing of late. And yeah, it's good to be back. I feel like I was on, maybe it was probably towards the beginning of the summer last time. And then now we're definitely at the end of the summer, getting to that fall period.
I've had to put the electric heater on in the garage, which I've not put on for a long time because it's quite chilly. Although I might turn it off in a minute because it's getting to a nice toasty temperature. So let's talk about last night's game in Istanbul. Now, the general vibe I got from a lot of Spurs fans, there was a bit of dissension, I think. Some people weren't bothered if we lost it to a certain degree because it was a bit of a free hit. But after winning 3 games, knowing we were going to have to make a number of changes, we've got a number of injuries, and I just thought there was that vibe that if we lost, it was a bit meh. But I don't think anyone expected 28 shots against us, Jack.
No, yes and no, I guess. I kind of did think this was going to be a basketball type game. I'd watched Galatasaray last season, and they were a basket case of a team where really heavy up front, got some good players up there. But then at the back line, if you have Davinson Sanchez starting every single week for you, you probably don't, let's say, have the strongest of defenses. So they are a funny team, Galatasaray, where I think they do give teams a good game. But then again, they do look quite open in midfield, and they do look quite open, at the back. It's just that I think they had enough of a good forward line to cause us problems since we're missing, 2 of our best defenders in Mickey van de Ven and Romero. Pedro Porro or Udogie were going to be played. They definitely need a rest, though, at the same time. And I think this was just always going to be a really challenging game for Spurs. And also when you see Fraser Forster in goals, you see Dragusin can't even, complete a pass, let alone protect the ball at all. You just kind of knew that it was going to be a bad day. That it was going to be a basket case of a game. And I guess we'll talk about the other elements. At some point, Spurs looked like they were actually going to go on and come back and maybe even win the game. But it was a ridiculous game. Galatasaray probably should have won it 5-0, 6-0. It felt like by the end of the first half. But they are a weird team. I kind of had a feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Geraint, I'm going to bring up the team. Do you just want to talk me through your thoughts on that starting lineup while I turn my heater off?
Fair enough. I think the defense picks itself, right, guys? Based on who we have, and Destiny probably needs a rest. Midfield looks light. You can just tell, like Madison and hadn't seen enough of Bergvall to really have a strong opinion, but it just looks light. And then up front again, that's about as good as we can go if we want to give Solanke a chance to get air in his lungs. So it's still a team capable of scoring a few goals, but as we found out, it's also a team capable of shipping 28 shots. So,
James, any thoughts on that, on the starting lineup?
Yeah, you've got to rotate, especially considering we've played midweek games pretty much every single week this season. The big concern for me was we're going away to Turkey, and there is a lot of youth in that team. And I was just concerned about the mental fortitude. I mean, just generally, I'm worried about the mental fortitude of this team, but especially in a game like that we know is going to be very high tension, a lot of pressure. It did worry me so much, young talent on the pitch, perhaps.
Yeah. Jack, before I come to you, I have a question for you. You've done hundreds of shows on the Irish Hotspur. Has anyone ever said the phrase mental fortitude on one of your shows before?
Oh, geez. I feel like we use the same words 1,000 times. I wish we were smart enough to use mental fortitude more often. Usually we're just using dumber words, half the time to explain that sort of thing. But I'd agree. I actually agree, James. I question our mental fortitude, even with our strongest of teams, let alone, a rotated side.
Yeah. Okay. Ian's good evening, lads. Bring on the tractor boys. We'll come to this, Ian. We will come to this. So I thought we started off all right, Geraint, and then just obviously Madders gave away. Is Madders giving away a free kick that led to the goal?
Yeah,
Seems soft.
I think that for the whole first half, you could basically describe as soft, John. Let's be honest here. I mean, it was not a great performance that way, but yeah, it just seemed very easy for them to get in. Right? I mean, we like to. It seems like we work really hard to score goals, and we make it incredibly easy for opposition to score against us. And last night was no different. I mean, one pass was all it took to bypass our midfield and three of our defenders, and they were in alone most of the time. So yeah, it's just maybe I don't know what we're missing, because it happens with Mickey and Romero as well, but I don't know. There's just something missing there. Like maybe it is mental fortitude. I'm just going to use that all night now.
Maybe I'll rename the show Mental Fortitude.
Yeah,
James,
it's mental fortitude.
Yeah, indeed. The free kick came in and then was headed out by Archie Gray. And what a strike by the Galatasaray player. But there's been some questions raised about Fraser Forster. Was he too slow to move his feet? Is that harsh because it was a hell of a strike? Would Vicario have saved it, in your opinion?
Vicario might have, yes. It's kind of tricky with stuff like that. I mean, should Forster be expecting him to shoot? Probably, because he is lining his body up. Secondly, it's really hard to say. I don't know how clear a view Forster had of the shot before he took it. And also, we do have to remember Fraser Forster is about 70. So sometimes moving for that kind of shot is going to be difficult for him. Maybe Vicario saves it, maybe he doesn't. In reality, I think the blame lies with the defenders allowing him to have the time and space to take a shot like that. We shouldn't be letting a player do that in the first place, regardless of whether the keeper might have been able to save it. Had he saved it, it would be a wonder save in effect. So I don't think he should be allowed to get that shot way off in the first place.
Jack, does our gun, does he score goals like that very often?
From what I could tell, I was doing that version of 15 minutes research, before a show on maybe Galatasaray's kind of front line, because I knew that they were pretty attack heavy last year. Then I looked at them this year, and that guy Akgun looks like he's been scoring some goals for them, this season. They had some player, I think it was like a hard name to say, but a fun name to say. It was like Oktukurglu or like something like that. He went to Benfica. He was pretty good for them last season. I think this is maybe the Oktukurglu replacement, if you will, in Akgun. He seems to be quite good. Looks like he scored some goals recently for them. So I guess if you're a Galatasaray fan, maybe it wasn't a surprise. He nearly scored another one. Do you remember that?
Well,
he nearly scored another absolute
he
screamer.
Hit three like that last night. One that scored, one that Dragusin deflected wide, and one that thankfully was at Forster's head and he parried it away. I mean, he hit three volleys like sweet as a nut. I mean,
you wouldn't expect it too. He wasn't the biggest of characters or anything, and yet he really knows how to strike a ball. So fair play.
No, he's hit 4 in 4 in the Europa League, so he's only got 2 in the league in 10 games.
Okay,
4 in 4.
So maybe that's what
James.
it was.
Just something to add. Would you I don't know if you realise this, but Forster was not even the oldest goalkeeper on the pitch last night. The other guy was 18 months older than him.
Really?
Yeah, Muslera's been there since like 2011.
Battle of the pensioners.
Yes, indeed.
Well, let's give Fraser a little bit. He wasn't the reason we lost last night.
No.
All right.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people saying a quicker goalkeeper saves that, but would Vicario have been in the same starting position, or would he been a yard further to his right? I mean, if Forster can't see it through like bodies, will a shorter keeper like Vicario see it through? Like it's so tough. It's a tough one to call. I mean, yeah, it wasn't quite top bins, but he hit it, man. That thing was traveling. So
I think it's hard to criticize for the first goal, but the one that Osimhen later scores, you could say Vicario saves, because then there's that really ugly finish from Osimhen that just Forster barely even gets down for. That one maybe Vicario would have saved.
One, yeah, maybe. But
and then it's 2-2 in another world.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, but would they have sort of stopped playing so much against 10 men? Was that because we changed the team? Was that because they were, had a lead? I mean, we're never going to know, are we?
Did they stop playing, or was that just them?
Was it because they were knackered? Was it because we had a stronger midfield on and suddenly Solanke up front was a greater presence? We'll come on to Lankshear in a minute, but the difference obviously was huge, just having Solanke there and obviously having Kulusevski on the pitch and Bentancur, Assar and Bissouma as well. Just that's physically stronger and probably with more mental fortitude, literally, than Bergvall, who, bless him, I thought looked a bit lost. He looked really good in pre-season, but he's a young lad. He's not had a string of games, so it's hard to get that momentum and rhythm. But Ange needed to make changes. You have to rotate because we've got a big squad, and you don't need to win 8 games out of 8 to qualify for the either the playoffs or even to be top 8. I think I'll come to the table in a minute, but 6 wins you're guaranteed. We're going to be guaranteed to be qualifying without having to play a playoff game. So, you take gambles, and it didn't pay off last night, unfortunately. But yeah, I did think that I felt far more confident defending corners last night. That was one thing, having Forster in there. I don't know how you felt with that.
Well, yeah, until he dropped that one. It felt all good
until though, wasn't it? That was a through ball, wasn't it?
He dropped it, and then I mean, we've conceded 2 goals from 50 corners this year in the league, and yet it's still. I mean, okay, it looks like on half of them we might concede, but we're not as and the one against Villa, Porro misses a header, it hits Bentancur. Vicario saves it, and they've got a guy standing on the goal line doing what he's supposed to do, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, you would hope that a guy that's 6'7" can command his box. I mean, and he does. Yeah. He does well, but and Dragusin is a defender. Like, he's supposed to be good in the air because he's got little else right now.
I mean, I'd never thought I'd be glad for his top knot than I was when it headed away that strike. So, something
that
surprising.
Ball was moving as well.
That was moving indeed. So let's quickly talk about. I mean, let's talk about the equaliser, and fantastic moment for Will Lankshear getting his first Spurs goal. Archie Gray was on the left, gave it to Sonny. Sonny sort of got half tackled. Archie brought it back. Now, James, I was thinking if that had been a doggy, he probably does a full pirouette and plays it back out to Son, or goes back in field. But Archie Gray, obviously being a right footer, looked for a different option. I wasn't expecting that pass. I don't know about you.
No, I wasn't either. I mean, that was a fantastic ball. Can only be played by a right footer. So a prime example of why I think he's probably more of a midfielder than he is a fullback in a lot of ways. That kind of passing, it's exactly almost what you want out of one of your 8s. Great pass. Udogie never does that. Not because Udogie's bad, but that's just not what he'd do. He'd want to go down the line, beat a player, or he'd have to turn and pass back. But yeah, fantastic ball and great goal, all things considered, with that one.
Yeah, Jack's nodding away, and Jack, I
loved that goal.
Brendan Johnson's touch in August, that ain't going straight to Lankshear, is it?
Well, I mean, I think it's very well placed by Brendan Johnson. He didn't look fazed by it. He looked very composed, in the manner in which he did it. But if he doesn't place that, I think we're all losing our minds, So, like, he's kind of has to in that situation. You have to get it right. It's just one of those. But I thought it was just a fantastic team goal. I know you kind of say Sonny was half tackle, but I feel like he pulls off some type of meg or some type of trickery there to actually get past his player. Then Archie Gray kind of sort of takes it off of him and just like takes a touch and then just sprays that gorgeous ball. And it's a brilliant run from Lankshear and Brendan Johnson. Brendan Johnson, I think, actually does really well to make that run and to be looking for that pass actually there. And that's what he's good at. He's good at making those runs and being there in those scoring positions. But it's actually one of my favorite goals of the season because it's just a nice team goal. It kind of just everyone does something really nice involved in it, but no one in particular, maybe apart from Archie Gray, does it all. Let's say Archie Gray is central to it, but it's a great goal. And even the one we score afterwards with Blanky is also, I think, a great goal. Another really good team
that's
goal.
a better goal. That was a real passing move. We were all around the team. And Porro was in the left centre back position at one point and ended up crossing it, didn't he? So.
Yeah, despite being dominated, we scored 2 lovely goals. And one of our 19-year-olds score in front of a very intimidating crowd. So it was a strange game. Had a lot of different elements.
Yeah, Geraint, I think. I mean, it's hard to tell, but what do you think this is going to do for Lankshear going forward for the rest of the season, or even obviously we know he's suspended for the next game, but he could play on Sunday as a sub or easily. I imagine.
He could. I mean, he's scored more top flight goals for Spurs than Scarlett and Parrott combined, right? So it's going to be fantastic for the guy. I mean, and have you seen the photos of it afterwards where he's given it large to the Galatasaray fans as well, right? I mean, he's standing in front of the home fans and he's just giving it large. I mean, come on, gotta respect that. Yeah, it's got to be good for him. I mean, hopefully it sounds like he knows his red card was just stupid and he'll learn from it. And we've got players there that will walk him through it because we have a few that have done it before, so they'll know exactly how he's feeling. So it should be good.
I mean, well, let's talk about it now. I think from my point of view, the first one is a European defender absolutely playing the game, knowing exactly what's happening. So he's always going to be yellow, and if there hadn't been VAR, possibly a red, because obviously he went down as if he hit him in the face and he didn't.
Yeah.
And then the second one, he lost the ball, and I'd forgotten at this point he'd been booked. And the moment he turned, I knew he was going to foul the guy and probably get booked. It was just, you've seen it so many times in football.
Yeah.
And it's almost like his frustration got to him. He'd been kicked all night by those centre-backs. And I thought he did such a good job against effectively 3 centre-backs, including Davinson Sanchez. I thought, James, it was just a hard gig generally for Lankshear.
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult, and realistically, the ref wasn't going to penalise any of their players for fouling him, and he was always going to be penalised incredibly harshly, even if it wasn't a foul. I mean, we could talk about did he deserve those cards or not. I personally think it was poor game management to not sub him off earlier. Once he was on a yellow, and it looked pretty obvious he was probably going to get himself another yellow, just because of the way the game was going. He's being kicked, and if you've played football, when someone keeps kicking you, at some point you're going to do something a bit daft, especially when you're, how old is he? 18, 19? He's young. He's younger than me, right? Like, at some point that was going to happen in an incredibly intense atmosphere. I think he probably should have been recognised that was a likely outcome. And unfortunately for him, even if we lost and he got subbed off and he wasn't, sent off, he could still very much value that moment of scoring in a European match, even if we lost. But now, because of the red card, he might not be able to so much. So I think that's certainly a shame for him. I think he can take a lot of confidence from scoring, but perhaps not as much as he could have done had the game been managed a little bit better from Ange.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, I think going forward to Sunday, we've got so many injuries and players out. I understand Moore and Werner are both out as well. There's a good chance he's going to get on the pitch as a sub at very least anyway.
He could do, or maybe with some of this rest that Solanke got, not like he got a ton, but some of the rest that Solanke got, maybe he will just play him for the entirety of the 90 minutes. Sonny also was taken off at halftime. Is Sonny capable of, close to 90 minutes? He might be. Brennan Johnson will likely probably be forced to play the whole 90. Yes, probably Lankshear could come on, but you never know. Maybe he'll go for something different. I agree, though, with what James had said. If maybe in an ideal world with, some benefit of hindsight, Ange Postecoglou could have looked at taking him off maybe a bit sooner, just considering that, he had him lumps kicked out of him. And I think in that particular moment as well, he had a moment where he basically sort of missed or didn't see, I think it was James Maddison and one other player that were pretty much wide open towards the left. And he kind of turned the wrong direction, realized it, loses the ball. And then after probably being kicked 1,000 times, got really frustrated with that moment after losing the ball. And he had no service, for so many periods. And there were moments where he was making really good runs, I thought, and behind. Sonny actually, I thought, let him down at one point where Sonny kind of had this little 2-on-1 where he was just to the right of him, has this truck of a touch, and then the Galatasaray players really get away with it, actually. It should have been a goal for Lankshear again. And I think there are other moments where we let him down. He's making good runs into the channels, stretching the defense, and just thought he was let down, actually, by some of the other players. I think he did the best he could. But then, like James said, just when you're a young player like that, you're definitely going to get yourself, into trouble, and he did.
Yeah, I'm talking game management. Geraint, we took off Son and Brennan at half-time for Kulusevski and Bentancur, which I imagine may well have been predetermined. Yeah. But the first 5 minutes of that second half, it looked like we put a couple of 11-year-olds on them because we were all over the place. They could have scored 4.
Yeah, I mean, I sat down and I'm like, how come they're showing Icardi after 11 seconds if they almost scored? And then it just got worse from there for about 5 or 6 minutes. It was normally we expect us to come flying out of the traps in the second half, especially if we have a very slow by our standards first half. We're a 45-minute team at for most of this season, but it's usually a very good 45 minutes. But yeah, it was just I was like, oh, this is going to be 6 or 7-1. It's going to be 6 or 7-1. It just looked like we weren't at the races at all. And thankfully, their finishing was about as good as ours at Leicester, and they kept us in a game.
Yeah, I mean the Cheese Room Patreon chat was full of. I think I said this is going to be 6-1 if he doesn't make any more changes here, and people were saying 8-1, and it was a bit all the show. But 66 minutes, we finally brought on Solanke and Sarr and Maddison and Bergvall, who, I mean, probably were the worst 2 players, Jack, I thought, for us, unfortunately, with the ball, certainly.
I think Dragusin probably had the worst day, maybe out of anybody.
Yeah, fair point.
Then you could go to Bergvall probably after that. Bergvall, I think the sad thing with Bergvall is that I do rate him. I think he's clearly a very technically gifted player and also is strong and looks like he has a lot of potential. It's just since he is young and since he was playing in a difficult atmosphere and he hasn't been given that many opportunities or minutes this season, once he started playing poorly, he kind of just, it's almost like it amplified and it multiplied. He just kept playing worse and worse and worse. Every touch just got larger. Every decision took even longer for him to make. And it just felt bad for the kid where he just got really in his own head and then needed to be taken off for that reason. With Dragusin, what's funny is since we don't have any other fit and available center backs, I feel like the same thing was happening to him where he's young, maybe got a little intimidated by the atmosphere. I'm not sure what it was, but he was playing poor and then kept playing worse and worse and worse. And, all the way up until the 90th minute when he finally was relieved of, that torment. But I just felt really bad for some of those guys like Maddison, like Bergvall, like Dragusin, guys who have probably a real opportunity of challenging for the first team, challenging for the starting 11, giving something for Ange Postecoglou to think about. They all pretty much had stinkers. And I think now the distance or the gap between them and the first team or them and the starting 11 has really grown here, especially for Dragusin, sadly for Maddison, because I think this was a big game for him to kind of be that maverick in the midfield, take over, create things, out of nothing. Wasn't able to do it. Then again, he was playing in a 2-man midfield because Bergvall was playing that poorly, you could argue, but it was just a really bad day at the office for players that you would say probably needed to have a good game if they wanted to give Ange that bit of confidence that, he can start them in more serious games.
Yes. What was my train of thought? I'm trying to think what it was now. I always love when Jack comes on. He talks and it just makes so much sense. And suddenly I just get lost in his thoughts. I'm like, what was I going to say?
Too many
every
thoughts.
time.
Too many
thoughts. Yeah, indeed. So the subs came on, James, and suddenly we started playing, and we scored a fantastic goal. I thought, like I said earlier, Porro ends up in the left centre back position, picking the ball up and then spreading it, and then he was on the end of to cross it for Solanke for a really good finish.
Yeah, weird finish, weird goal in a way, but very good finish, and that's his third in the past 2 games now. Yeah, it's weird how when you bring on like your better players, the team starts playing better. That is very bizarre. I mean,
given we were down to 10 men, though, I think you have to factor that.
Yeah, we played better after we went down to 10 men. It's almost as if it's like, crikey, lads, we better give this a proper go then. Like a mental, light switch flipped, right? And we just suddenly looked like we could actually get something out of the game all of a sudden. I don't know if it's a case of we're down to 10 men, no pressure, lads, or if they backed off because they had a 2-goal lead. We were down to 10 men, so they thought, we'll just sit back a bit, and that gave us the opportunity to get back in the game, especially with the added legs we brought on. But we just looked completely different after we scored. After we brought the subs on, especially after we scored, I thought like we might actually get an equaliser. But very bizarre.
I mean, we only really had, I think, the Kulusevski from about 30 yards, 40 yards when the keeper went walkabout, Geraint, that I can remember. And they had, again, Osimhen had about 552 attempts to get his hat-trick, but didn't quite make it.
There's Kulusevski's, and then there's another, I'm forgetting it, but there was another massive one. It might have been Solanke again. I think Solanke actually had that other opportunity where he was in behind, kind of took a poor touch, and then eventually all the defenders caught up to him. Yeah. And then there could have been even another kind of decent half chance as well that I recall. That again, that thing with that game was, like I said, I think Galatasaray clearly very good attack. They could cause teams problems, but at the back they looked like anybody could carve them open. We had no problem, and that was with Will Lankshear, a misperforming Bergvall, a misperforming Madison, a dysfunctional midfield, a very disjointed attack, and it still looked like we were in behind on plenty of moments in that first half if it wasn't for a poor ball or a poor touch or something or another. Like, we were playing poorly in that first half, and I still think if we were just that bit better on the day, would have scored 2 or 3 goals ourselves in that first half. I mean, Galatasaray's defense looked very leaky.
Yeah, we also had a break with Bentancur, and he had the 2 guys out wide and Dom through the middle. All. The worst option was Dom, because Dom had the 2 center backs, and that's the pass he decided to play, where if he puts it out to either of the wide guys, we've got an odd man. I mean, just and I'm not digging out Bentancur because I thought he played very, very well, but just sometimes our decision making was a little poor. But I'd love to meet those guys again in the knockout round. We play a strong team. We batter them. We absolutely.
If we'd played them at home with that team last night, I think we would have beaten them, even with the starting lineup. It's different to the home and away. So here's some stats. Oh, go on.
Okay. No, well, I also think that when the draw came out, we all saw this as the toughest match, right? Galatasaray away is never easy, right? I mean, it's a bit of an atmosphere there, and they've front loaded one of a very, very good attacking trio, although I think one of them's just ruptured his ACL, so it's.
Isn't that the one you said you'd be wearing white jeans? Is that what you said on the Patreon Slack?
Yeah, Icardi. Yeah, the Dubai fella. Let's call him. Yeah, Icardi.
Looks like he'd be comfortable in white jeans, I think is what you said. Thank you very much, Russell. Thank you very much.
Riveting input. Cheers, mate.
Yeah. So here we got some stats. Now, what I would say about the XG is that you can go on 50 different websites and get different XGs for the same game. So you take that with a pinch of salt. Ball possession, again, it depends where you've got it on the pitch. But really, we're looking at the goal attempts, 28-5. shots on goal 10-3. So obviously their keeper made 1 save, and our keeper made 7 saves and 12 shots off target and 6 blocked. So how we got away with the 3-2, it could have easily been 3-0 if Kulusevski had his shooting boots on. It was on his left foot. You'd expect him. You've seen the number of times he crosses the ball. That was a sort of a distance for a cross. He could have put it in. And when he first hit it, I actually thought it was going towards the goal, and then it was obviously miles wide. So, but like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm not too gutted because there's plenty of time. Right, here's the table. So sorry, this is too small, but we are currently 7th place on 9 points. The 9th place team, Lyon, which is the top team for the playoffs currently, is on 7 points. So obviously they can get they could get 12 points, which would take them to 19. So effectively we need 3 wins and a draw. But I can't see Lyon and Rangers and Olympiacos and Badouklin all getting maximum points. More teams will drop points. So what are we thinking? I'll ask all of you. What are we thinking is enough to get in the top 8? Probably 15, 16, 17 points. Geraint, what do you think?
3 wins. Another 3 wins, I think. 3 wins and a draw.
18 points.
Let's go. Yeah, about 18 points, I think. Should do. I mean, like Rangers, they're in our group, aren't they?
We are playing them, yes. They're our next away game.
Yeah, and Hoffenheim in 19th. Are they in our group, Hoffenheim?
Hoffenheim we play as our last away game in January. Yeah, so we play Roma. We play Roma, who are 20th next, and then we play Elfsborg in January, and they are, where are they? No, they're not there, are they?
Not even on the screen by the looks of things.
I can't. I've lost them somewhere. They're somewhere anyway. But yeah, I mean, Elfsborg, we're playing them on the 30th of January, which is during their end of season break, effectively. The Swedish league ends in November and starts again in February, March. So we've got absolutely no excuse for not beating them unless we do play the under 16s, which is a possibility if we win the next 3 games.
Well, depending on where we are. But
Jack, how many points do you reckon we need, do you think?
Probably just need to win 2 more games, and then I think we should be fine. And I think we can drop points to Hoffenheim if we needed to away from home. I wouldn't expect us to, but I think we could. And then Roma at home, we should try to win. Elfsborg, we should try to win. Rangers away from home, I think we will win. Rangers are a bit of a basket case right now, and I mean, they could give us a good game, but I think we should try to win that one, and then we pretty much guarantee our spot. Yeah. So 2 wins, I'd say 2 wins, and we should be fine.
So you'll go, 2 wins and a draw, you thinking?
2 wins and a draw. Yeah, thank you.
2 wins and a draw. So another 7 points, go 16 points. Yeah, James?
Yeah, I think if we beat Roma at home, they're not doing brilliantly right now. And Elfsborg, never heard of them before, so it can't be very good. 2 wins there, we should be fine. I think we'll win our home games quite comfortably. Hoffenheim could be a tricky game. Rangers away, they are a lot worse than Galatasaray, but again, it's one of those games where there's going to be a very intense atmosphere, and there is always the potential for the team to decide to completely fumble, go have a cry and a lie down, and then we lose. So that might happen, but even without that game, I think we'll still be top 8, so no worries.
The one thing I discovered last night is that 3 days after we play Rangers, they have the Scottish League Cup final against Celtic, which is obviously a bigger game in many ways for them, although they want to beat an English team. So hopefully their minds will be on that game. So I had a quick look at because this has not been mentioned this year because England failed so dismally. This is the league table for the extra Champions League spaces for next year. Now, currently, so I'll just explain it. The first one that says bonus, forget that for now. I think that's bonus for qualifying for the knockout rounds and stuff. That'll come in later. The average points on the right-hand side is the total number of points. So Portugal have got 34 points divided by the number of teams playing for that country in Europe this season. So you can obviously work out that Portugal have got 7 teams because 5 teams divided by 5 would be 6.8. Poland will have 4 teams because 25.5 divided by 4 will be 6, and so on. You can work it out. So England are currently in 5th place. This time last year, we were in about 15th place, I think. So we're in a bit of a better position, despite 4 of the 7 teams losing this week. Obviously, Spurs, Arsenal, Villa, and Man City all lost in Europe. So despite having a bad week, England are in pretty good. And I think this season, this is going to be very important for Spurs, trying to get, because that fight for fourth is going to be tough. So as much as anything, fifth could be a real chance for us to get a Champions League space this year, as well as trying to potentially win this tournament, which will get a Champions League space as well. And if you have a look on the right-hand side, you see Germany and Spain and France are all sort of fairly down the table at the moment. Things can change as time goes on, but just a little update, really, Jack. I'm sure you've looked at this on the Irish Hotspur at some point.
No, I haven't, but I wish I did, because this is some of the stuff that I'd love to nerd out about. I think with the England teams, I'm just always worried is that they just don't end up actually going as deep into the tournaments as always we originally expect. That's usually the thing. The Italian teams and the Spanish teams of late have been the ones to go especially far and deep into tournaments, and it'd be nice if we could be one of those to, go against the be the outlier, and be the one to go against the grain and us going deep into the Europa League. But I'm putting a lot of eggs into the Europa League basket for us. I think it is a very achievable competition for us, but it's just English teams always seem to find a way to get knocked out at some point.
I mean, I will say the one saving grace for our coefficient might be the fact that Chelsea are in the Wi-Fi Cup, aren't they? So I can see them having a fairly decent run. With the amount of money they spend on their squad, if they don't win it, that's pretty embarrassing. Same as, United have sacked the board man, so they have a competent manager now, so they might have a little Europa League run. No excuse for us really not getting at least to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and once you're at that stage, then winning is very achievable. You'd think that City will have another semi-deep European run, but the thing with the Champions League is I think it just basically whoever faces a Real Madrid or even a Barcelona, they look very good this season, you can just go out early and be unlucky. But I mean, it's very achievable for us. I think we should see English teams, at the very least, ignoring the Champions League, we should see at least 2 English teams going very, very far in European competitions. Hopefully we win it, so it doesn't matter. But,
Yeah, I mean, obviously you mentioned Chelsea, and they played a team called Noah from Armenia and beat them 8-0, so we can only assume, obviously, the goals came in 2-2. Sorry. A joke I stole from Twitter earlier. There we go. So on to Sunday, we host Ipswich Town at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, unlike the previous game that after we played in Europe, where we had to travel to Crystal Palace, and Dr. Tottenham will see you now, I am hopeful. There's always a bit of doubt because it's Spurs in my head that we will give a Dr. Tottenham performance, because Ipswich need the points desperately. But we are at home, and we're much better at home, Geraint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Yeah. I'm not feeling worried about this one, which is stupid because I've supported Tottenham for 40 plus years. But yeah, no. For some reason, I just think at home we're just different this season. So I think a lot of the kids will get on, but we'll be up by 4. So it'll be a nice pressure-free environment for them.
I mean, Jack, we had this news from Romano, and also Ange mentioned it, that Richarlison will be out for a significant amount of time with his hamstring injury that obviously he got creating the 3rd goal. You've just got to feel sorry for the guy, really. I mean, people have a go at players that get injured, but no one wants to get injured. It's not his fault. He's trying to come back. He wants to play football, and and the medical staff work with him, but it's just gone wrong for him again.
Feels like as if Sessegnon and Lo Celso had a child or something in the form of Richarlison. It's just that unlucky for him. Any time that he gets back and tries to contribute, it's just a set amount of time before he expires again and ends up being out for also considerable lengths of time, it feels like, too, in Richarlison's case. It's never like a week. It's never anything like that. It's always a long amount of time. And then when he does come back, you can still see that he doesn't even look 100% right. Like, he still looks kind of I think he is a bit of a clunky player. I think that's kind of why I like him, actually. But he still looks like he needs a bit of time to even get back to his full pace again when he does come back from injury. I think he's just sadly the love child between Ryan Sessegnon and Lo Celso, and we're gonna have to get rid. I've been a big rooter of Richarlison's. I think he was huge for us last season. I think he showed why last season. We needed someone like Solanke. We needed someone who does work hard from the front, presses from the front, can win balls in the air, can be that focal number 9 in the box for us. And I think Richie, for a good period, especially when Sonny was out, was that guy for us. And Solanke's an even better version of what Richarlison was bringing for us. But he's going to have to go. It's just you can't waste the wages as well as also the hope that he will be back on him anymore, because he's taking up a very valuable squad spot. He's Solanke's backup, Solanke's relief man, as well as also another option on the wings. And that could be better served for any number of targets that we could look at in January or the summer. Someone who's actually fit. He doesn't even play, and just like Lo Celso and Sessegnon, doesn't even play and he gets hurt.
Yeah, well, that's true. My worry for him, James, is that he's halfway through a 5-year contract. I can't see anyone, like Keith saying, move him on, but who's honestly going to take him? I know he was linked with Saudi in the summer, but he didn't want to go to Saudi. I don't really know how we move him on. Is he the next Ndombele? We have to try and loan him somewhere, but if he's permanently getting injured, how are we going to do that?
I don't think he's Ndombele in the same sense, because he's actually,
he's trying.
He hasn't, he hasn't been visiting the local McDonald's every day. I know Brazil, maybe. The issue is with that kind of deal, we're going to get no money. And we did pay 50 million. Yeah, I think that's the big issue. I mean, I don't know what money he's on, but if he's getting injured consistently, it's always going to be a struggle. I mean, last season, if he gets free from his injury and he puts up a bit of that form we saw last season where he went on that goal-scoring streak, then I can see clubs taking a chance on that, but not for the kind of money we're going to want. I can see clubs being willing to put a 15, 20 million punt in, maybe a promoted side, but we're probably not going to want that. And is he going to want to step down to that significant of a degree and also take a big pay cut just to maybe play more? I think it'd be a bit of a hard sell for him, especially when he probably still will get minutes here if we don't sell him. So it's another tricky one. Other than that, you're looking at Turkey, you're looking at maybe Portugal, but again, there's not huge amounts of money in those leagues, and I think he's lived in the UK for a long time now. He probably doesn't want to move out of the Prem. He doesn't want to move to Saudi. Fair enough, don't blame you. It's a tricky one. I don't know. Maybe Chelsea will buy him. Tell him he's the next wonder kid. They might give us 80 million. But
it feels like a Sevilla, but he wouldn't go there. I agree with you. I think he would want to stay in England, but feels like a Sevilla would come in for him for 10 million or something like that. But I
mean, maybe Watford will get promoted, and then they're 1-0 up against Danes Scarlets Oxford, by the way, and he can go back on loan there. I mean, maybe he could go Galatasaray when Osimhen doesn't go there in the summer, and someone else decides actually he's worth picking up. But I don't know. Anyway, here's the league table. There we are in 7th place. Now, there's some interesting fixtures, Geraint. I'm just going to bring them up because and there's the top league table on the right side just to match up. So we've got Brighton are playing City. Obviously, Brighton are just on the same points as us. Villa are playing Liverpool. You've got Forest, obviously this season's surprise package so far, playing Newcastle, and then Chelsea playing Arsenal. So we've got a bit of a free hit this week in a way, which again brings me back to the traditional Dr. Tottenham thing. But we've got a really good chance to, get a bit of ground on the top, or certainly on some clubs.
Yeah, we did. I mean, what are the permutations if City beat Brighton, Liverpool beat Villa, Chelsea and Arsenal draw, we win, and Newcastle beat Forest, we're in 3rd. Simple. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, because our goal difference is so good.
I can see what our predictor pools are going to look like already.
Yeah, you'd hope we could get a really good, a few goals against Ipswich as well, James.
Yeah, you'd certainly hope so. I mean, they are pretty terrible, and they're not like a side like Luton who, just play at the back with 11 men and kick you to death in 90 minutes. They do actually try and play football, which I appreciate. We're at home. Come on. Don't. That should be a comfortable win. I've also just noticed that we're 7th in both the Europa League and the Premier League, so I guess we just love the number 7.
Nice symmetry there, isn't it? And his Ipswich recent run of games, obviously they've struggled. They've got a couple of bright spots that I'll come on to, but they've been to London in their last 2 away games and conceded 4 at Brentford, although they were very unlucky there, and 4 at West Ham. Jack, what do you see happening in this game? What have you seen much of Ipswich this season?
Haven't been able to actually watch much of them live. Been watching more just kind of the extended highlights of any of their games. They had that really tough opening set of games, right, where they pretty much played, was it like Man City, Liverpool, and
Yeah.
Chelsea or something like that, all in the first 3 games. Kind of like you couldn't read much into that, and they did okay, for periods and that. But then these are like, you look at some of those fixtures there. A lot of the ones that they come up against, some of these should be wins if they have any hope of staying up this season. Like Southampton, they should try to get something out of that more than just the draw. You think with even sadly, teams like Everton, they should, not get beat at home. And maybe even the Leicester game as well was a bad opportunity to drop points as well as, again, at home. I haven't watched them live, but from what I can tell, they keep the game relatively close, but they're not picking up points in any convincing manner. So I'm expecting this to be a very easy game for Spurs for the most part. I probably, I'm prepared to watch us concede the first goal very unexpectedly, and then we'll just go on to win it 3-4-1. But this should be pretty easy work for Spurs. Probably, hopefully, one of our easier games of the season.
I mean, they have got draws at Brighton and at home to Villa, sorry. And they were very unlucky at Brentford. And Brentford are top of the league table for home games this season as well. So,
some of these draws are kind of impressive when you think about it. Aston Villa is a good draw. Brighton is a good draw. And Fulham is also a good draw. So that's a good point.
And if Calvin Phillips hadn't been stupid last week, they would have beaten Leicester. Not that that's a massive issue. For them, it would have been a massive 3 points. So here's a few stats. Tottenham have scored 9 goals in the last 5 games, are ranked 3rd at home this season, unbeaten in 6 home games. Ipswich have scored 7 in the last 5 games, haven't won a match in 11 attempts, and haven't kept a clean sheet in 6 matches. So lots of goals coming here, James.
Should be. I mean, we can't defend, even with a pairing of Romero and Van de Ven, and they won't play. So
Romero is a possibility. He's not ruled out 100%.
So Romero and Ben Davies. Great. That's going to be fun to watch. Yeah, we can't defend. And they can't defend. So, whack a bet builder on. High scoring game. Solanke to score twice. Us to concede 3. 5-3 win or something daft, probably. I can see that happening.
Yeah, that might do. Jason Dezelle, I mean, he's probably the same as fast as he was back in the 90s, to be fair, next level, because he was never particularly... He ran a bit like a duck, didn't he? So this was their team for the 1-1 draw against Leicester last week. Now, 2 players here that seem to be catching the eye. Left back, Leif, L-E-I-F. Yes, his name's Leif Davis, who I believe they're suggesting he might be pushing for an England call-up at some point. And up front, Rory Delap's son, Liam Delap, who they've signed from Manchester City, has scored 5 goals in 10 games this season. I'm wondering if he may not be there next season, Jack, especially if they go down. But have you seen much of Delap at all?
Yeah, Dave, the other Dave Harris, the northern Dave Harris, really does like Liam Delap, by the way, and says that he's a real good Premier League striker that should stick around after probably Ipswich do get relegated. So I think that's someone to look at. It's nice, good at running in behind. He also has the small shin pads and the short socks, despite being a big lad, which is something I'm a big fan of in strikers. And he looks to be a very good player. To be honest, I think the other Dave Harris is a bit more knowledgeable of him than I have because, like I said, I haven't watched actually much of Ipswich live this season. I've only caught the highlights, but he has scored some good goals. The Leif Davis guy, from what I can tell from Talk Sport, Jason Cundy is a big fan of his. He always talks about him any single time that Ipswich Town do come up, which isn't very often. Sammy Smodix, not a bad player. Had at one point a really good little spell there for, I think it was Blackburn, right, last season. Irish international / Hungarian international, good player. And then I think I'm missing one other guy. But, I mean, still, like, that team on paper, Liam Delap might cause us some problems. He's a physical striker, knows how to put himself in the right areas. But apart from that, like, that Muric guy I've heard has made a ton of errors. Again, haven't watched all of their games live, but I've heard he's been a basket case of a goalkeeper. So this should be work for Spurs.
Muric is ex-City as well, I think.
And like Burnley last year, right?
Wasn't he?
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
at Burnley last season.
They've got 2 ex-Pompey players in their team, actually. I don't know.
Chaplin.
And Burgess. Because
Burgess
he went to Belgium when Pompey was still in League One to play in their top division, and then I guess has gone back to Ipswich. I didn't know that. Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
And the right back used to play for West Ham.
Yes, he's
Oh,
Ledley
yeah.
King's cousin.
Hmm?
Do you know that? He's Ledley King's cousin.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was very highly rated, but his contract ran out, and so he left on a free. It's quite strange. It was real vibes that he'd be probably the next real English defender that would make the step up. So and I got a little foot mob has done a little Solanke Delap comparison here and got Solanke at 7.3 compared to 6.9. But if you look at the expected goals here, Solanke's got 5.1, but has only scored 4. Delap 1.5 scored 5 goals, so he's well over his expected goals ratio. And minutes per goal, 143 for Delap, 177 for Solanke. Now, obviously, we know Solanke's game's not just about scoring goals. He works for the team, and I think his goals are going to start coming now. He's got, as James said, he's got 3 in 2 now, or 3 in a game in 30 minutes almost. But I think it's starting to click, James, isn't it? The team as a whole with the ball, defensively is a whole nother side.
In terms of going forward, certainly the attack is starting to look a lot better. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of the season, I was saying, as soon as someone gets in a bit of form, we'll be okay and we'll start scoring. And you look, Brendan Johnson's scored like 8 goals, right? Solanke starting to score, getting involved. Son even is coming back and playing a little bit better in some of these games. It's starting to come together nicely. It's cooking. I mean, you look at Delap and his XG, his XG to goal ratio. He's like the inverse Timo Werner, isn't he? It's like the complete opposite of him. But I mean, he won't maintain that scoring throughout an entire season, right? Like, he won't overperform his XG that much for the entirety of the season. Like, that's a complete statistical anomaly. Solanke will end up scoring a lot more goals than him. I can see him scoring 20 goals plus this season, probably particularly in Europe. I can see him scoring quite a few in the Europa League.
Okay, so I think the back four pretty much picks itself. Just depends whether Romero comes in or not. Up the front three is going to pick itself because we've basically got no one left. It's going to be Son, Johnson, and Solanke. How long Son survives lasts is the next question, really. So really, the midfield three. I think Sarr and Kulusevski.
Doesn't it also pick itself after last night?
Well, it's who is it? Bentancur or Bissouma would be the question.
Bentancur looks classes above Bissouma right now for me, in my opinion. Like, I think they just look night and day between each other. Bissouma, I think he's a good serviceable backup maybe for right now, but that guy's had ages to nail down that defensive mid role or the number 6 role for himself, or even the number 8 role, the box-to-box role for himself, but he hasn't done. Bentancur has had 3 massive injuries, 3 massive setbacks, and finally has gotten some game time, and finally has got a run of games. It just looks different levels to Bissouma. Far tidier on the ball. I'd argue even just that tad bit better defensively because he does stay switched on. He is good from set pieces as well, just because he's taller, more physical, just a little bit classier on the ball as well, at least in my opinion, because he doesn't have that truck of a touch every now and again that Bissouma does for some reason. Bissouma will look really good in some games, and then in other games just look completely off the pace and just doesn't look up for it. Doesn't look like he can even have a good touch or a good decision. I just think he's a ropey player where he has good spells and has really bad spells. And Bentancur looks far more consistent than Bissouma right now. And that's probably the word to say is Bentancur has been consistent, whereas Bissouma hasn't. And Spurs just look a lot better when Bentancur is in the team in general. Like, we just seem to tick. Everything seems to move a lot faster. I think Bissouma takes a lot longer on the ball than Bentancur. Oftentimes Bissouma is like, he's taking 15 touches to carry it out to the wing, only then to play like a 5-yard pass to the winger he could have played it to like 20 yards ago. It's just, I think he's looked different levels to Bentancur in all the wrong ways. And then Maddison missed his opportunity to really impress Ange Postecoglou in the past couple of games. So it's just going to be, for me, Sarr, who's been unbelievable recently, Potmat Sarr, Kulusevski, and Bentancur. I mean, I could be wrong. People might feel differently, but I think the midfield 3 also picks itself right now.
Yeah, I mean, Soul Sniper's saying harsh on Bissouma, but Bentancur and Bergvall and Madders, I think, may not be as dogmatic. Remember Brighton away second half. JP's coming in saying Biss's levels are better than Benny defensively. It's all about opinions, isn't it? For me, Geraint, I'm just thinking because Biss played the whole 90, it's more likely that it'll be Bentancur that will start because of that. Although Biss has got picked more often recently, isn't he? I think since Brighton, particularly.
Yeah, but it's gonna be Sarr, Kulu, and Maddison. That's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen.
Okay.
in this match, this game where Ipswich won't have a dominating midfield, this is probably the one you try and get Madison back in his groove, right? But you can't drop Kulu because he's just our best player this season by far. So if this is the one, if you want to persist with that pairing in the middle, this is the match to do it in. I don't want to see it, but that's what I think is going to happen.
Okay. Benny is more composed when attacking teams. He is, but I think they've both got a bit. Basuma and Benny have both got their good and bad sides. So let's go for score predictions then. I'm gonna go to Jack first.
I've gone for a 3-1. I'm not sure if we'll be able to score as many goals as we'd like because it seems like Ipswich Town have kept it relatively close in these games. So I'm going to go for a 3-1. There's this sneaky feeling I have that we'll just continue to concede the first goal and then go on to win it by many goals afterwards. So I'm going for a 3-1.
James?
4-0.
Okay. Oh, he's gone clean sheet. Oh, he's gone brave.
It's going to happen one day.
Put your scores in the comments, guys. Come on. And Grind?
5-1. Spurs.
5-1.
Obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for another 4-1 following after West
So
Ham.
Lankshear with a hat trick.
And maybe Lankshear will then come off the bench.
There you go.
JP has gone 5-0. He's gone big time. Mark Neighbour's gone 2-0. You've both gone clean sheets. Have you not seen Spurs defend recently?
We're feeling brave.
Next level, he's having a negative evening. I've seen it. He's gone 1-1. I hope you're wrong.
He also thinks that Forest front three is better than our front three. So
I'm sorry. I don't know if it's actually a real person, but one of the things you put in chat seems like a football manager question you get asked. Mm-hmm. Like when you're managing in Football Manager, you get asked questions by the media.
Like this one.
Yeah, it reads like that. It reads like AI. That seems AI generated to me.
Where next level was the one that was very anti-Gio Lo Celso when he was just getting back in the team a year or so ago and then disappeared. We're at a crossroads in some ways with this game. I'd like to ask the panel how concerned they'd be if we slip down the table after this game. I think Spurs fans are very up and down at the moment. Obviously, a lot as much as anything, it's the performance. The performance at Palace was just terrible. I think most of us sort of wrote last night off a bit anyway. Although there was definitely similarities to the game at Coventry last night defensively. But we do know, tradition tells us, history tells us that teams that play Thursday night Europa League games, especially away, struggle on the Sunday. So I think we've got to factor that in. But if we lose this game, it will be frustrating because it'll be just for international break again. But for me, I think we've just got to stick with Ange for now. We can't be changing managers. We've got to stick with it. You can see what he's trying to develop. We take a step back and then we are having a couple of steps forward. Villa being a really big step forward for me. What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know if I'd be concerned, but I would be PO'd. I mean, Ipswich at home has to be 3 points. It has to be 3 points. Would I be concerned? No, because I've seen this for 30 years with Spurs, right? But I would be extremely PO'd about it. I'm trying to keep this PG so kids can watch. But yeah, I mean, Ipswich at home, you look on your schedule at the start, you're like, okay, that's 3 points. It has to be. So
if that's 7-2, it'd be a great game for me to be actual. I'll be delighted with that. Jack?
I don't know. I think maybe on the comment that things would slip down the table, perhaps, but I don't know. I think we're just going to win. And even if we don't, maybe Ange Postecoglou's good credit with Spurs fans goes down the drain after Aston Villa and Man City. That'd be a shame for him. But I think that's why you just have to win. That's part of the volatility of being a Premier League manager and volatility of being a Spurs manager. You can beat Man City and Aston Villa, but then if you lose to Ipswich Town, all of that goes out the window. So he's got to win.
Yeah. So we've got our fixtures here after the obviously Ipswich is at the top, but then after the international break, we've got game after game after game. So Man City away, Then we play Roma. Then we've got Fulham at home. Then we go to Bournemouth on a Thursday night, typically.
Oof.
Then we play Chelsea on the Sunday. Then we travel to Rangers. Then we've got a 7 p.m. kickoff on a Sunday away to Southampton. Then we play Man United in the EFL Cup on another Thursday. They seem to just want to keep picks on Thursdays. Then Liverpool, just a couple of days before Christmas. Then Boxing Day, we've now got what is looking like a really, really tough game away at Forest. And then we finish the year at home to Wolves. I mean, this just shows why we've got to rotate the squad. But you could easily get a bit of a sticky patch in there, James, or we could easily pick up quite a few results. It's going to be really tough to call, isn't it?
Yeah, even the weaker teams, you look at maybe Bournemouth, they're actually all right at the moment. Their manager's pretty solid. Fulham are pretty poor. We should probably beat them, as we should batter Southampton 12-0 preferably. But, even look at Forest away, they're good at the moment. Isn't Nuno their manager? Like, what's going on there?
He just won manager of the month.
Yeah, what's going on? So that means
they'll lose tomorrow.
Yeah, he'll get sacked next month.
Sacked next month.
Yeah. We'll definitely lose in a game we shouldn't, and we'll definitely win a game no one thinks we will, because that's what we love to do. We'll beat City 1-0 or something and then go lose to Bournemouth. That's what happened. But you look at that, Rangers away, tough game. Even going down to Southampton's going to be a tricky match. Man U, we don't know what they're going to be like with their new manager. We are thankfully at home. That's probably more important than some of those league games, solely because win that in a semi-final, although that does add a lot more fixture congestion because you play 2 legs in the EFL Cup in the semis, don't you?
Yes, yeah. It'll be the first week of January and the first week of February, 2 semi-final legs.
So it adds more fixtures.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of football, and hopefully we don't have any more significant injuries, because this is where they tend to start piling up.
Yeah, we've also got the young South Korean Yang coming in January. Obviously, he's only 17 or be 18 by then, I think. But we do need to add to the squad. We need some quality. We've obviously got Jed Spence, who's not registered for Europe, but is registered in the Premier League, but he's been injured. We desperately need a left back or a left centre back, or somebody who can play both roles for me, because we are short. There's no doubt, and we've left ourselves short. But what's Sean saying here? By the turn of the year, less teams and weak squads will start wilting, so those should be easier. Yeah, it can do, but they don't play so many games, Sean. That's the difference. But at some point, we'd expect, obviously, Leicester was the anomaly. You'd expect Chris Wood's goal scoring streak to maybe drop off at some point and them to not get so many points. But they've got a good front three. Chris Wood is an old school number 9. He's got 2 fast wingers playing alongside him. They've got a good system. I know Next Level said Nuno, who wasn't good enough for us. Well, he wasn't. He didn't know how to manage that team. Now, maybe he's managed to find, he's found a system that works for him at the moment, and fair play to him, because he did a good job at Wolves until he switched to a back 4, which was strange. And I think his time was up at Wolves, but it was never going to work at Spurs. I don't really know why. Yang may be sent to Westerlo till the end of the season. Yeah. Oh, he's going to put everyone at Westerlo.
Can we go back to another one of these Next Level English comments where he says we're only 1 point above teams who shouldn't be near us? Something like that. We're also only 1 point behind the champions elect, that other team from North London. What's your point? It's 10 games in. I mean, right? I mean, come on, man. Have a cup of sunshine and try and be happy for the rest of the weekend.
I mean,
it's not all doom and gloom, man.
We're a fourth of the way through the league season, right? And we've played some difficult teams already. I mean, we got away at Newcastle out of the way. We beat Man U. I mean, I know they're terrible, but they're not that terrible. Thankfully, we played them before Ten Hag went, so that was good news, wasn't it? I mean, it's early doors.
It's not good enough. We've not been good enough this season.
I mean, yeah, we've underperformed, but you think we don't throw away a lead at Brighton and we're third. We're knocking on the door of a title challenge, aren't we, in some people's eyes? So it's very reactionary to look at it this early on in the season, isn't it? I don't, we're like the stock market, Spurs fans. One slightly bad thing and we crash.
It's not even that. I think we're actually looking at previous Premier League seasons. I'd agree with the notion. Yes, we're only reading into a quarter of the season, but everyone is starting to argue maybe the Premier League's far more open this year, where teams are far more capable than maybe previous years of actually taking points off of each other. And it feels that way this year, where not every game is guaranteed. We always say that in the Premier League. It's a massive cliche, But this year, it seems more true than in previous years that every team is decently capable of taking some points off of each other or just really surprising somebody. The fact that Arsenal were going into the season thinking that they were going to be, practically perfect, and go undefeated and, this sort of thing is just a real indication of how different the Premier League has gone, maybe according to people's expectations. And, we're used to 90-point seasons from Man City, 90-point seasons from Liverpool or Arsenal. And I don't think that's going to happen this year by what it looks like. That's just not going to be the case. So everybody's going to be neck and neck with each other for a good period.
Yeah, and having Bournemouth just won their last 2 league games against Arsenal
just
and
beating
City.
Villa and Arsenal, haven't they?
Yeah, and City, I think they beat, right?
Yeah, they're taking scalps.
City and Arsenal. The other thing is, if you look at our games, Palace in the league was probably the only bad performance. Newcastle away,
full 90 performance, full 90.
If we'd had Solanke as he is now at Newcastle, we'd probably win the game. We didn't have a striker. Leicester, we should have scored 6 in the first half. We didn't have Solanke was playing, but it was his first game. He'd only trained a few days with the team, hadn't he? And we dropped off. They got a goal back, and we could have lost the game bitterly. But generally, Arsenal were the only team that really looked like stopping us score, and that's what they're very good at. But I don't think we've really played badly, other than Palace, where we weren't mentally up to it, unfortunately. And as I said in the comments earlier, maybe the Maddison Kulusevski thing, that's where it proved it didn't work. It'll work if we've got a wide open game at times, but it didn't work in that game, and we had the wrong attitude as a whole team on that day. So I think let's just go roll with it. There's no point. We can't sack Ange, basically, is where I'm getting to. It's far too early. Otherwise, we're just going to keep this revolving door of managers coming in, changing it. He wants different players. He has a plan. Sometimes I do question his game management, and then sometimes you think he's got that spot on. So Palace was odd for me. He didn't make any subs till like the 79th minute or something, was it? It was something stupid like that, and he should have made change. No, sorry, Brighton. That was Brighton and Palace. I didn't think he got it right, but home games we're doing well. Away games are a bit of a question. So time will tell. Maybe he does need to work out exactly defensively how we're going to play away from home, because we're leaving our back four very, very vulnerable. And maybe he just needs to have 2 sitting midfielders. Maybe that's the answer. So
I think as well, it's that phrase I use, mental fortitude. It is just the mentality of the team at times. I think we seem to let ourselves lose games when the going gets a bit tough sometimes, almost. And I do wonder what that is, because I can't imagine that's an atmosphere Ange is cultivating or anything. So I think that's just something,
that transcends Ange. We did the same under Poch. How many 1-0 losses to West Brom did we have in our golden years?
Yeah. So. And under Conte and Mourinho. I mean, it's a broader rot, but I think that can only really be resolved by bringing in more players. We definitely need to do something in January. I think we all agree we didn't do enough in the summer. And that's ultimately why we're perhaps going to struggle in some of these tertiary competitions, just solely because we don't have a deep enough squad. And, well, we've actually gone kind of far in the League Cup. We could be in the semi-finals quite easily. We're going to progress in the Europa League. I mean, worst case scenario, we play a playoff round, right? I don't think that'll happen. But, there's just a lot more games this season, and we're going to pick up injuries. And at times, I think there's a bit of mental tiredness and a bit of physical tiredness in some of these players, just because of the lack of quality and depth.
I think they landed, Jack, at about 2 a.m. This morning back from Turkey. And they stayed at the training ground, from what I understand, because I heard Jack Pitt talking about the press conference, saying that Ange was saying he was on his 3rd cup of coffee because obviously he hadn't slept very much. So that is always a worry. There's not a lot of turnaround time before you get that. And it's not just the players. It's also the fact that the coaching staff will have been talking to them about Galatasaray until yesterday. And they're only talking about Ipswich today and tomorrow. So they've only got 2 days to prepare for this game. Ipswich have had a week. And that's what Palace had before we played them. And it's one of those things. You get into Europe, you have to deal with this.
I think that is the challenge in the nature of the Europa League that we knew about kind of going in those, that you do end up sometimes traveling to some countries very, very far away. also as well, you might pick up some unexpected results or, take a beating, that you don't really want to take. And then you have to pick yourself up and, get yourself back to London in a convenient amount of time. And it can be difficult. It can put, some stress on the players and stress on the staff and everyone involved. But that's when you're kind of thankful, I think, to play then in Ipswich Town at home, where you can come up against an easier side. You're not going to Chelsea away, or you're not going up to Newcastle away after, going to Istanbul or something like that. Yeah. So this is the best possible opponent, maybe bars Southampton at home or something for us, really. So, we can't really complain. And this is the nature of the Europa League, and playing more games, you just end up having to do these type of difficult journeys. And, it's what made probably the whole thing difficult for us. Was it was going to be our toughest game, like mentioned earlier. It's always going to be our toughest Europa League game, and then we had to go into it with very few players available. So it was never a good recipe for us.
Yeah. So we're going to hour and 13. Please give us a like, subscribe. If you're watching this on catch up, please give us a comment. Tell us what you think the score is going to be, who you think the starting lineup will be. Let us know where you're watching in the world. That'd be great. Hopefully Gibbo and HG will be back on Monday. I might even give a little video on Sunday if I get to the stadium, depending if it uploads. I'll be honest, I've done quite a lot of these beach walks with the dog, and I'll try and record something, and it just doesn't upload to YouTube. It's quite frustrating. But I'll try and get something else over the weekend. I'm going to say, James, thanks for joining me.
All right, nice to be on.
Nice to see you. Geraint, thanks for joining. You can go to bed now. What is it, like 2 a.m. now?
Yeah, 2:15. Yeah. Do we honestly think Werner, Solanke, BJ Yang, and Dragishin are top 4 players? No, but why are you even including Werner? Werner is bench at best if we're a full fit team.
He's a Champions League winner.
Yeah. I mean, it's a squad game now, and I think Solanke has turned a lot of people around. A lot of people were doubting. I was on the Cheese Room podcast last night, and Paul and Franco had that conversation about Solanke. Both of them doubted him when they came in, but they both sold on him. His work rate, his job isn't just about goals. If you look at Firmino at Liverpool, his job wasn't just about goals. He had 2 players either side of him, and his job was to bring them in and bring the midfielders in, and that's what Solanke's giving us. He's giving us a different dimension. Part of the reason we're doing better in attacking sense is because he works so hard, and he's helping. He holds the ball up, which is a help, because Richarlison can't really do it, and we know Son can't hold the ball up. So I think that's the difference. It's a lot of money, but he's an English player, he's a homegrown player, and that's part of the thing. Yes, it'd been great to get Gyökeres. Yeah. But it'd be interesting. Gyökeres looked very good against Man City the other night, didn't he?
Yeah, but if we would have dropped 30 million for Gyökeres from Coventry when he scored 4 goals, fans would have been in an uproar. And anyone who says they wouldn't be are lying. They would have battered the club for having no ambition. Oh, you're signing a League One striker. And anyone who says different is lying.
Yeah. So
there we go.
So there you go. So we onwards and upwards. Thanks, G. Onwards and upwards. Jack, thanks for joining all the way from Seattle. Great to see you again.
Yeah, great to be back on. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite. It's been a while, John.
I'm hoping the Northern David Harris is joining us next Friday.
I hope he does.
He was going to come on this week, but said he will do next week. So I'm holding him to it.
I'll hold him to it as well. Make him accountable.
I mean, if you're around as well, we could have a double Irish Hotspur, double lads.
If you can tolerate that, not many can. So at your danger, at your
maybe
leisure.
If it's cool. Maybe Caller HG and you two will be on that. That'd be quite a good show, wouldn't it? And thanks for watching, guys. Please give us a like, subscribe, all that malarkey. It really does help us out. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Cheers, everyone.